there are clues to our lives encoding everything around us. And astrology has been used and from time to time, we look up into the heavens and, we try to search answers to the human condition. So we will bring now Walter Boyd, and he'll be talking about the secrets of astrology and better relationships. And Walter, I would love to get you to introduce yourself to us. Here we go. Let me just put you on the spotlight. Here we go. So welcome.
Hello, everyone. Okay, before I actually start, do I need to record this, or is this being recorded at your end?
Yes, it's recorded on my end.
Okay, let us start. So my name is Walter. I'm an astrologer, an intuitive, and a healer. I've been interested in astrology for quite some time, actually. Even before I picked up serious astrology, I was always very interested in the horoscopes, in looking at the sun signs, moon signs and stuff. But it was only when I was 21, 32 years ago, that whilst I was in Australia, I picked up a book on serious astrology. And I'm going to say serious as opposed to horoscopes that you get on the newspapers and stuff. And my world changed. Prior to the whole exploration of human character, personality, I was relying primarily on how I saw people, how I assessed people through my senses, how they behaved in connecting with other people, and even how they worked in environments and within groups. And that was my way of assessing what people were like and how they were behaving, and trying to understand human behavior. And when astrology came into my world, everything changed. Everything changed. It was a case of suddenly everyone fell into a beautiful constellation. Everyone, when they're born, has a specific set of stars or planets somewhere within the horizon or below the horizon. And this gives rise to the astrological map. So unlike soul plan or numerology or some other method of defining character, I found that with astrology, I could pay true respect to the individual who was presenting themselves to me in that moment. So in a client situation, it isn't just about saying, okay, you're a Capricorn, that's it. It literally breaks the whole identity down into its various components, and to then find the specific gifts and challenges that the individual actually holds within themselves, to then allow them, as you give them back this range of capabilities and potentials within their chart, to then understand what they can do with it. The best way I can actually see it is realizing what ingredients you have in your kitchen, and then allowing the individual's free will to decide what they're going to create from that set of ingredients. You could have eggs, flour, milk. Someone may just say, well, I'm just going to turn it into a custard. Another person may actually say, oh, I'm going to turn that into a cake. So again, it's looking at the specific qualities that are held within a person's chart, and to then deliver, not from a kind of, I'm very much about creating a sense of empowerment in my clients. It's not about just saying, this is what you've got, deal with it, you can't do anything about it, this is just the way the stars are written. I believe that every constellation within the chart allows for a potential to grow. So as an example, growing up, one of my qualities within my chart, we will go into speaking about astrology in a moment, but one of my qualities in my chart is that I've got this really sharp angle between Venus, the planet that defines your way of actually relating to other people, and it can also define the way in which you hold your relationships, not just in a intimate type relationship, but also in how you engage with other people. My Venus has a really potent, challenging aspect to Uranus, the planet of independence, of being totally different, wanting to be totally unique. So when I was younger, this expressed itself in a way that I didn't belong to any group. I was a lone wolf, as I would call myself. I would hang out with people. I would have lots of friends. That would actually be one of the qualities of this. Lots of friends, but very little commitment to engage within specific smaller groups. So I was actually once confronted by one of the members of the group that I belong to, and they said, "Why have you got so many friends? Why are you not committed to our grouping?" And I said to them, I do not belong to anyone. I do not belong to anyone, and I will not belong to anyone. So from a relationship point of view, you can actually see that this can actually be quite problematic, because from a relationship point of view, it can be very self-serving. It can be very much about, it's all about me. I don't really care about what's going on in the group or what the other person's actually feeling. Not implying that that is how I am, because there are other factors within my chart that turns that around, that allows me to be empathic whilst also being independent. And as I grew older, what I then understood that this particular angle of Venus and Uranus was really asking me to be honoring of my identity within whatever group I belong to. It does not say you cannot belong to anything, but what it's actually addressing is my primal desire to be true to my nature. And in that calling, I must also allow others to be true to their nature within my interaction with them. So this, from a younger person's point of view, can appear to be one that is just outright rebellious, non-conformist, wanting to not belong to anything. But as we progress, as we mature, as we tweak the expression of the particular constellation, it then allows us to bring forth, to be honoring of our nature, whilst at the same time opening space, which is a nature of Uranus, opening space, holding space, being brave enough to hold space for something that's different, for others within our social network to be true to themselves. So what types of astrology are there? Apart from the things like Chinese astrology, Mayan astrology, Vedic astrology, you've got a whole set of astrology. You've got soul-centered astrology, each one focusing on specific, how would I say it? My area of expertise is primarily tropical astrology, which is European astrology. And each particular type of astrology uses a different set or a different set of criteria to delineate the positions of the signs and that sort of thing. Obviously, with Chinese astrology, in comparison to, say, Western astrology, the signs are completely different. But that effectively is where you're getting the differences. I was actually having a chat with a friend yesterday, and they were saying, so which particular astrology is true? What I would say to people who are called to explore their chart, allow your own resonance to direct you to a reader, to someone who's so if you feel that your resonance is with a Chinese astrology, run with that, trust that, allow the information that you gather or that you receive within that session to empower you, as opposed to saying, I'm going to go for Chinese astrology reading, I'm then going to go for a Vedic astrology reading, I'm going to go for Western, and I'm just going to mix everything and become really confused. I would actually say, as opposed to going with everything, allow yourself to truly immerse with a specific system, and then from that system, gather the tools that will empower you and also instruct you on where your challenges are and how you can grow. Okay, so the things that I get questioned about in terms of in a consultation, anything under the sun, anything under the sky will come up, but generally it fall under the categories of health, happiness, as in love, relationships, and also money and career. Obviously, we're talking about relationships today, so I'm going to actually bring the focus primarily to that area of relationships. So from a personal point of view, each person, as I mentioned earlier, the moment they are born, will actually have a particular set of stars within the particular signs that is the constellation around the Earth. That set of positions is then used to create a star map or a birth chart or a natal chart for that person. It will be unique to that person. Even twins will not have the same star map, because in 4 minutes, the signs actually move. So every 4 minutes, there is a 1 degree change to the position of the rising sign, which can mean a whole lot of difference when you're making a comparison between, say, twins or people with the same birth date. There's also the location, because if I were to say right now, 2 individuals are being born. One's being born right here in South Africa, and one is being born somewhere in New Zealand. Immediately, you'll know that the one that's born here in South Africa will actually have a chart that has the sun somewhere above the horizon because it's still daylight. Whereas someone, or that little child who's been born in New Zealand, will actually have the sun somewhere below the horizon. And the position of the sun, whether it's above or below the horizon, can mean a whole lot of difference when you are creating that reading to understand what the individual is all about. The sun, the sun, okay, we will talk about the sun very briefly. The sun, most people, their sun signs. Everyone knows their sun signs. There's horoscopes. I'm a Capricorn, you're a Cancerian, you're this, you're that. But there are other planets within the chart as well. You've got the moon sign, which shows you your instinctive behavior. You've got your Venus sign, which I've actually spoken about, which is your ability to relate to other people, to connect to other people, how you love, what is your love style. There is also your Mars. Mars is how you express your will. So many people in this day and age talk about love and light. You can't show anger. You can't do this. You must somehow be completely calm and collected. But you've got 12 different signs which Mars can actually sit in at the moment of your birth. Someone with Mars in Aries is a go-getter, will be quick to anger, will be very quick to move, sometimes taking action before thinking. A Mars in Libra, as an example, will be more contemplative, will actually try and balance the whole thing. So in a social atmosphere, a social climate that says you mustn't be too impetuous, you mustn't be too quick to anger, the Mars in Aries is going to have more problems and will have more hang-ups about owning their Mars than the Mars in Libra that says, oh, I somehow understand this social logic that I've got to be calm, collected, and I will bite my tongue before I do anything else, which is where this whole idea that when clients come to me, so much of us, until we really realize who we truly are as individuals, so much of us carry the templates or the expectations of our family, our society, our community, our nation, our identity, to the point where we limit the expression for the parts that somehow resonate and can gel and can express with the particular group that we identify with. There is no problem. But for the other parts of ourselves that somehow runs counter to social norm, it's very likely and more often that it becomes submerged and becomes more of the shadow. So a lot of my work in delivering readings to clients is to bring these aspects of themselves up to the surface, not as a naming and shaming, but as a way of reclamation and celebration, to allow them to recognize that these aspects which they may be fighting with themselves for, which they may find themselves feeling guilty about or feeling ashamed about, allowing those attributes to come to the surface and to be truly celebrated, honored, and given some way of expression. I think obviously, if we have if I'm seeing a client and he's got a really strong Aries, Mars in Aries, and he's living in a society where everyone's got to be calm and collected, and he's coming to me because he's frustrated or he's expressing it as some form of high blood pressure because he's not able to somehow express this tension, then part of the work in bringing this information out is asking or bringing ideas as to how this Mars in Aries can be better expressed. It doesn't mean that somehow he's going to deliver more anger, be more screaming, be more of a warrior within the workforce. But it might be something like, are you exercising at the moment? Do you do a lot of exercise? Are you somehow taking the pressure off? So a lot of the consultation work is not just about bringing the awareness of what traits are sitting within the individual themselves, but also how can they find a way to better express this part of themselves that is not able to express themselves within normal society or within a relationship. So within relationships, as an example, it's easy enough to actually see that, as I said, we've got the sun, we've got the moon, which is our instinctive behavior. And another point that I'd like to add is so many people assume that they are their sun sign. But in truth, yes, we are our sun sign. But in truth, we as by our nature tend to be quite automatic, quite instinctive in our behavior. Oh, I'm feeling hungry. What do you want to eat? Oh, I'm just going to put something in the oven and I'm not going to really think about it. There's a lot of automated responses and behavior that is within human nature. And why do we do that? Because optimally, we are trying to optimize energy and time, because being conscious, being awake takes a lot of energy to constantly say, are you sure you're happy with me? Are you sure you're happy? Are you really sure that you're happy? Sometimes it's just easy to just move with the flow and act upon something that you perceive to be required based on your own instinctive drives. So the reason I'm actually addressing this is the moon is where we find our instinctive nature. The moon is where we find our instinctive nature, whereas the sun is what we are aspiring to become. So most people think, oh, I'm a Capricorn. I'm already a Capricorn. I would actually argue, based on the clients that I've actually seen, I would actually argue then that you are, or in my case, I'll use myself as an example. I'm a Scorpio moon with a Capricorn sun. The Scorpio moon then is very analytical, it's very perceptive, it's very driven to dig into the shadows and pull out all the gunk and create transformation. The Capricorn moon then says, what you are doing instinctively must then be brought to the light to create something from what you've done from the instinct. So the way I see it is, I dig into the shadows to create the structures that build the world. That's Capricorn. I dig into the shadows, I dig into the hurts to build new structures, to create new foundations, new infrastructures that enrich your life and allow you to feel the light of your spirit. Because another thing I actually say is the soul is linked to the moon, and the sun is associated with your spirit. So your soul or persona, your persona, or my persona in this instance, dives into, is secretive. It likes to probe. It likes to investigate. The persona does this, but it does so in light of, towards a goal to create a foundation and a structure that is, because another quality of Capricorn is to create a legacy. So it's not just digging for the sake of being nosy. It's not just digging for the sake of finding truths to hurt other people. It's digging so that you may find the underlying truths to build a new reality, because Capricorn and Saturn is also linked to the idea of reality, your manifestation. What are you trying to manifest here? So things like relationship goals, because one of the things that we can also do with astrology is we don't have to just look at a single chart. We can look at two individuals and compare those two individuals in how they interact. So as an example, you'll find that individuals that almost instinctively feel an innate attraction will have their sun sitting or making a positive aspect to the other person's moon. Where it gets really interesting is that sometimes you'll actually find the other person's sun is also making an interesting aspect to the other person, the person's moon. So there's already an interconnection, because all of a sudden, where we actually have my persona, let's just say I've got a partner and his sun is sitting on my moon. So immediately we say the radiance of consciousness is lighting the persona. It's lighting my instinctive drive. It forces me to look at my instinctive behavior to then allow me to move with greater clarity, with greater consciousness, with a greater sense of awareness of what I'm doing. What I'm actually trying to address here is that when you actually have these positive aspects between two individuals, between their luminaries, that's what we call the sun and the moon. So my sun is sitting on this other person's moon, and it doesn't have to be in terms of just a one-to-one romantic relationship. It could be between you and a sibling, or you and a boss, where there's an innate awareness of who you're dealing with, because one person's sun radiance is sitting and is being met by the container of the other person's soul. I'm very symbolic in the way I actually in the way I work. So when I say the sun, I tend to actually see the sun as almost like a ball that's it's not it's solid, it is radiating, just like when a person's sun is fully ignited, you have a personality that is radiant, confident, has presence, it is full, it is not hollow. Whereas the persona, the moon, tends to be more adaptive, accommodating, meeting, seeking to contain. It's very womb-like. So when we actually have one person's sun then being met by the other person's moon, you have a beautiful containment. And when you have that same containment for the other person's sun sitting in my moon, or my sun being met by their moon, then we're actually looking at a type of relationship where there is really a kind of synastry going on. There's a real chemistry going on, where there is communication between the other person's spirit and my soul, and my spirit and their soul. Okay, so that's things that we actually look at. But it's not just about the synastry, because there are moments where I've had cases where clients comes and they say, I've got these two people who would be better for me. And granted, I would never say that's the one, you've got to leave the other one, forget the other one, because with all of these processes, we've got to honor the free will of the individual getting the reading. We've got to honor that at the end of the day, there's also a soul behind those eyes. There is a soul that's actually meeting me in consultation that says, I have got a purpose, or I have got a contract with this person, which I am hoping to grow from through my interaction with this individual. So there are moments we could actually say, well, we've got these two situations, or we've got these two charts, we're looking at the comparison, and it's not looking very good. It's looking, there's challenges here. There's challenges here. And, you know, the person would, it still falls upon the person who receives the reading to decide as to whether they will proceed with that relationship. Because at the end of the day, there is still a soul contractual relation or contractual agreement that's going on, that is seeking to be met, that is seeking to somehow grow from that relationship. Now, having said what I've just said, it does not stop me then if I actually see within a client's chart or within a consultation that there are challenges here. It does not stop me or limit me from being able to then say, well, these are challenges, just as we had that individual with the powerful Mars who is feeling confronted, who's feeling high blood pressured because he can't express who he truly is within his world. There can be remedial action to be taken either by the individual who's asking for this question about the relationship, or by two of them. Because if I actually saw a chart and I said, as an example, let's bring us back to that Venus square to Uranus. I'm seeing a synastry and I'm seeing A and B, and there is this angle, this really challenging angle between Venus and Uranus. Venus says, I want to love, I just want to love, I want to be with you. Uranus says, I want to be independent, I want my time, I like my space. So when you actually have that, what do you do? What do you say to an individual? If we complicate things a little further and we say that one of the individuals within the relationship is a Scorpio and is really, really possessive, as an example, what can we do in that situation? Then it's imperative that what's addressed with the client receiving the reading is that somewhere within their relationship, there must be the capacity to create independence. And it doesn't mean independence, I'm going to leave the house, I'm just going to go on my own, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to tell you where I am. It's that kind of, because in a sense, doing that to a Scorpio would actually be stirring the pot. Because if you don't honor who your partner is and says that I'm just going to do what I want because I don't really care, this particular angle says I can do what I want, then effectively the reading has not delivered the support that the client needs. What I seek to do in my readings is to acknowledge that this particular Venus-Uranus quality is there, but also to honor the fact that the other attribute of the Scorpio sun, or the Scorpionic, needy, possessive individual, and it doesn't have to be possessive because it can be also transformative, so if it depends on the participants of the relationship. If all parties are willing to meet the demands of the relationship, then all the challenges will be able to be met, or at least some of them can be met. And what I mean by that is they can be met from a space of conscious awareness. Because as long as we actually meet relationships from a place where I will do what I want because that's my instinctive nature, this is who I've always been, and the other person says, this is who I've always been, then what we're really doing is we're seeing moon meeting moon, persona meeting persona, and there's very little chance of truly growing into the sun, because that is where we are all aspiring to, whether we are in a relationship or not. I was meditating on the idea of relating. I'm going to close with this, and then we can actually get some questions if there's any questions. I was meditating on the idea of relationships, and so many people, when I look at things from an energetic point of view, so many people tend to seek to create a bonding with another person. in hope of some kind of energetic exchange to occur to meet their own needs. But what I'm actually finding that in the work that I do, what all of us therapists do, is that what we're really affecting, what we're really supporting the client in doing is to first initiate relationship with themselves. For if you're not in true relationship to yourself, then the gift that you are sitting as potential can never really be delivered to the world that you have come into the world to gift. So I actually see the whole process of healing, or the whole process of relationships, to be where the individual sits in the center, and I see their aura, and I see another person outside of the aura. Many people attempt to create a relationship from the edge of the aura to the other person. But what I feel, where we are being called in our work, where we are being called to support, is that we create this connection between the heart of the individual to their aura, and in so doing, who they are meeting with the world is complete, is full, is robust, is confident, is like the sun. It is filled with heart, consciousness, and awareness. And that's my sharing with you all today.
That was fascinating, Walter. Thank you so much. I wish we had some time to make some questions. I definitely would have one for you, but we can always catch up. I'm very curious to know more about soul plan and how that can help us to understand more how that can impact our own relationship with ourselves.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you so much. Has been wonderful to have you speaking with us for the first time, and we hope to see you again on the next one in April.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I had this whole list that I created, and I wish I could actually go through all of it, but I hope I've delivered some sense of awareness of where we are, where each individual is, and perhaps empower them to really take their identity forward.